Yes.
Oh dear. Okay, I call this meeting to order right now. 6:35. Is that right? All right. So the first item on the agenda is the housing assistance programs that we've been running, the LRAP rental voucher. Do we have an update on that?
Yes, we do.
Excellent.
So currently we have 15 active LRAP participants. We have 0 for ERAP. And the one mortgage assistance program applicant that was approved, our office has been unsuccessful in reaching this applicant to get the required documents to start. And I do have one new application for LRAP. This will be LRAP 24. It's a 3-person household. The annual income is $55,176. The rent is $1,800. And this application has 8 preference points. This application is a little bit different than the others in that it's a family rental. So there is no formal lease. However, the landlord has written us a letter explaining how much the rent is, the fact that utilities are not included, and the landlord has gotten a W-9 form. So I just wanted to let you know that because it is a little bit different in that way.
Okay, so that's in somebody's house. It's not a formal apartment.
Right. It's a family home that up until recently, this household was not being charged rent, but because of financial situations, the rent has started being charged.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, can you go? It was three residents, $1,800 a month in rent, and their annual income was $55,000. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
Eight points. Okay. Does anybody have any issues with that?
I mean, we haven't run out of money, but it does feel like this one is not as the situation here isn't as dire as some of the other applications that we've gotten. And I'm wondering if there's what's the limit on the amount per month? Is there a limit on the amount per month that we can give? In other words, is it always the full rent?
Oh, well, this is LRAP. So this is the $250
okay.
a month.
Okay. Oh, right. In that case, I have no problem with it.
So it would help a tight situation.
Yeah.
It may not be as tight as some, but it's still tight.
Maybe just make a note that when this one comes up for renewal in a year, we can revisit.
Well, we do anyway. But yeah.
I know, but just that we remember that this is the one that this one has a situation that's different from some of the others.
Has the family's employment situation changed lately?
No, it has not.
Okay. All right. Well, then, does anybody want to make a motion to approve or disapprove?
I will move that we approve LRAP number 17?
24.
24.
Well, look how far off I was. I move that we approve LRAP number 24.
Second.
Angus, was that you?
I think it was.
I seconded it.
All right. Okay, moved and seconded to accept LRAP 24. Let's see, do we have to do a roll call? I guess so. Mark?
Aye.
Okay, I'm an aye. Matt?
Aye.
Okay. Who else do we have?
Angus somewhere.
Angus? Can you hear us, Angus?
No.
No. All right.
Do we have enough, three of us?
Three is, yeah, is that enough for? Angus is not, okay.
Myron, is that enough?
No?
No.
7. So we need 4.
All right. You? All right.
Are you short a quorum? I was gone for a minute.
Yeah. All right.
You are?
Yeah,
Susan's logging on. She's coming.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Great. Bartlett, if you don't mind, while we're waiting for either Angus or Susan or both, let's see. My recommendation is for you to authorize funds for LRAP for the next fiscal year. You had authorized $60,000 for the past 2 years. Most of that is spent, and it took the full 2 years to spend most of that. And I would recommend, if you're looking at 20 active slots again, that you authorize the $60,000 for the upcoming fiscal year.
Okay. We'll need a quorum for that too, but I accept your suggestion, and I'm looking for a motion to take another $60,000 and use it for the emergency rental programs as they develop over the next year.
The LRAP, actually.
LRAP. Is it just LRAP? Okay.
Just LRAP.
Okay. For
I'll
LRAP.
make the motion that we approve the funding for LRAP for another year, not to exceed $60,000.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. All in favor? Angus, are you there?
No, still no Angus.
Susan?
Yes.
Okay, Mark?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Does that cover us? Okay. All right, so we've approved $60,000.
Do you want to go back to the last LRAP and get that out of the way?
And we can vote now on well, some of us have voted. Susan, we talked about LRAP 24, a new applicant, 3-person family living in somebody's house, so there's no lease, but the rent is $1,800 a month. They have 8 points and an annual income of $55,000, I think $100. So there's been a motion made and seconded to approve that LRAP 24. Do you want to vote on it?
Yes.
Okay.
If you were saying that to me, yes.
Yes, I was.
Sorry about that.
So that's a complete vote, and the 60,000 is a complete vote. Is there an update that we need on there, or have we had a sufficient update on the housing need in town? Has that changed any?
I just wanted to mention something, if I could.
Yes.
I wasn't able to get it on the agenda for this meeting, but Maren said that I would be able to have just a short discussion about it and put it on the agenda for the next meeting. So I just wanted to mention that our department, Elder and Human Services, has been working with the building department, the police department, and the fire department on complex cases within the community. And we've kind of determined that there is a need for temporary emergency housing assistance. So where LRAP is for long-term, rental assistance, there seems to be a need in town for if a person's house is deemed uninhabitable, or if there's major repairs that need to happen, and the family needs to relocate for a period of time. Maybe it's a few weeks, a few months. We're finding that there's not a lot of funding options for that. So I just kind of wanted to put it on your radar for the next meeting.
Okay. So would you be looking for an LRAP kind of amount of money to tide people over, or would this be an emergency full rent for whatever period of time that is?
To be perfectly honest, I think that any amount would help at this point, because these households are typically residing in like a hotel for a period of, weeks to months. So it wouldn't necessarily be a monthly payment, but to pay for a portion even of these hotel stays that are, these extended stays that people are needing to do in order to repair their home or do what they need to do to their home. But, paying for temporary housing while also making home repairs is just not feasible for a lot of people.
Correct. All right. So these are mostly based on housing, structural or code issues that need to be addressed before the people can live there?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, do you feel like, would the time frame of this be like 30 days or longer?
I don't know if Liz wants to jump in here, but these cases differ so much depending on the scenarios. It's hard to say, but I would say 30 days would probably be the minimum that we're seeing. It's, like a few weeks to a few months that we're seeing recently.
Okay.
If I may, through the chair, add some additional information.
Sure.
It's Liz Tridiac, Director of Elder and Human Services. So just to back up a little bit, like Nicole said, we've been meeting with the Board of Health, Police, Fire Department, and these cases are just getting so complex that we formed a community crisis intervention team. And we can typically find some amount of funding through either St. Vincent de Paul, charitable organization, or through something like one of our emergency assistance funds. But at one point in time, this is pre-pandemic, I had a conversation, I think it was with Cindy Napoli, about funds that might be available through CPC or through another, through somewhere else. I'm sorry, I don't have the words with me right now. That would be able to be used for emergency shelter or emergency housing situations or for a critical home repair. So we haven't fully fleshed out this idea. We're going to do some research and see what other communities are doing. And then we'd like to come back to your board if possible and present a better picture. Just wanted to put it on the radar.
All right. Well, thank you. I think that's certainly worth considering, and we'll definitely put it on the agenda for the next meeting. I don't think technically we can vote on anything tonight. I think we will have to do case by case, as you suggest, and with a little bit more information about each family that we're dealing with and the situation. Does that make sense to my board?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, great. Then we will continue that item next time. I think that does part one of the agenda. Part two is board member input updates. So can we start with Durkee Farm? Does anybody have an update on that?
I think that's Cindy primarily.
Cindy, and she's not here. Okay, we'll hold that. Then the next one is the Tehadawon Road, the Mary Brown property.
Yes. Marin very helpfully put together a request for a quote for doing the perk test at that site. And I will request from the board some funds for that this evening. I've been in contact with Steve Janley at the DPW. He's willing to provide us with a backhoe, which should reduce the prices as long as we can schedule fairly far in advance. So that should work out very well. And I believe we had a contingency for a second chunk of money so that if it did perk, we would be able to start the design of the septic system at that point. And I've also been in touch with Carolyn at the Habitat for Humanity. She just got in touch with me and asked me what was going on, because I don't think I'd spoken to her in a few months. And I said that the our best advisors had told us to wait until it was very dry to do the perk test. So that's what we're doing. So I hope we can get that done in the next 30 to 60 days and start moving on this. Did I miss anything, Maren?
The amount, the quote that we got was for $1,800 for the testing and the field work. And then if the testing proves fairly positive, then it would be a follow-up $1,800 for the conceptual septic plan.
And that's the price without a backhoe. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I guess I'd ask the board to release, authorize Maren or I to, pay up to $3,600 to move forward with the septic on this property.
Make a motion that we release $3,600 to the project on Tehadawon Road for septic design, actually, septic perk test and design.
Second.
Second, moved and seconded. Okay, we'll do a vote. Is Angus with us to vote?
No.
Susan, can you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Matthew, can you vote?
That's an emphatic yes.
And Mark?
Yep, that's a yes.
And I'm a yes. So
Woohoo! Thank you, everybody.
all right.
It's really happening.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a member input update on 550 King Street?
Well, as you know, Pilot, we approved the master plan up there. We're looking at some deeply discounted senior housing, approximately 40 to be built either on-site or off-site, and another 38 of affordable units to go in. And now we're just waiting for the definitive process to begin. We need traffic study, we need drainage, we need a lot of stuff, and we're waiting for the phasing to start in the Poli company, but they are committed to 40 deeply discounted, 30 to 60 AMI, and the balance 38 at 60 to 80, I believe, AMI, either on-site or off-site. So things are starting to move. We're hopefully going to finally get some deeply discounted senior housing in the town of Little to go along with that senior center.
Great. Mark, can we assume that these affordable units will be distributed amongst the many buildings that are proposed, so that this will be a slow growth in the numbers over the term of the development?
We put in correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but we put in that 10% of the affordable units have to be built as the phases are built. So if he does 125 units, 10% of what that would be 12 units, and 10% of the deeply discounted affordable have to be, or a percentage of the affordable have to be in there, and the deeply discounted affordable as well.
All right, so they'll
come in as the phases go in. They may not stay there. The deeply discounted may be just a temporary thing while if he does in fact build them all off-site, but at least we'll get some right off the bat.
Great. Okay, that's good. All right. Excellent. I don't have anything to add to that. So we can move to the minutes of the prior meetings. Has everybody had a chance to read them? We have May 17th as the prior meeting. Any issues with the minutes as written?
Nope.
All right. Then a motion could be made.
Move that we approve the minutes from June 17th.
May,
May
May
17th.
17th. Okay,
Move that we approve the minutes of May 17th.
Second.
great. Okay, we've lost, oh, no, Angus is here. Angus has his hand up. Angus, can you hear us? We can't hear you. All right, let's vote on the minutes while we're figuring out what to do next. Susan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Matthew,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bartlett is a yes. So that's all of us, I think. Angus, I don't know what's with Angus. We can't hear him, and I don't know if he can hear us.
We can't see him either.
We can't see him. Okay. So the next thing on the agenda is a presentation and discussion, design of elderly housing with Professor Christopher Johnson and Dr. Roxanne Johnson. Now, I read the articles that were included in the announcement and looked at the prose, and I thought it was actually very interesting. Did anybody else read the articles or the article where you explained his theory?
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. We don't have Angus, or I don't see Angus or the Professors Johnson on my screen, so I don't know. Oh, are you Professor Johnson? Great,
Yes.
thank you. All right. So can we just ask you to start your presentation?
Sure. Can we do screen share to
Yes.
share the presentation, the
If you know-
PowerPoint?
If you know how. I'm too old to do screen share.
There we go.
Thank you.
There we go. All right. I'm Roxanne Johnson, and my PhD is in dementia studies from the University of Stirling in Scotland. And I'm a gerontologist and a dementia specialist, and I've worked on dementia and design projects since the 90s. And what I wanted to do is show you just some examples of the importance of dementia and design. As people live longer, we will be having a higher percentage of dementia. And it's always a good idea to do a design where people can age in place. And so I'm clicking and it's not going anywhere. There we go. This was one of the articles. Dr. Chris Johnson is my husband. And so we came up with this conceptual model of Alzheimer's as a trip back in time back in 2000. Seems like a long time ago. And it was published in the American Journal of Alzheimer's Disease and Other Dementias. And it's now used worldwide. And rather than being a stage model where you have to go through one stage to get to the next, with dementia, we see it as time travel and a trip back in time. So someone could be diagnosed with dementia at, say, 70, but in their mind, they're on a trip back in time. And this helps explain why they can talk about 30, 40, 50 years ago like it happened yesterday. But if you ask them what you had for lunch or who came to visit, they'll say, no one, I didn't eat lunch. They had very limited short-term recall. But because the spirals are connected, at one point in time, if they're having a good day, they can regain cognition or access cognition to their current age and recognize somebody that just walked in the room. And then 3 minutes later, be back at age 30, etc. And what we did is in the full article, I didn't want to bore you with that. It's 10 pages long. What we found is Piaget's developmental task with children and babies. They learn to sit up and crawl and then walk. And what happens with people with dementia is they lose these skills in a very similar fashion. And so we call it the trip back in time. Any questions?
Is this specific to Alzheimer's, or is this a pattern that a lot of dementias? I mean, I think I understand that there's many different types of dementia.
Yes, this is for, I would say, a good chunk of the dementias. There's probably 60 that we have identified right now. But if you had vascular dementia and you had a stroke, it would impair a certain segment of your memory, say from 40 to 50, or depending on where the stroke is in the brain, it would impair that. But in general, this is a good model to use. There are a lot of mixed dementias, and Alzheimer's is very common.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide. There we go. So the principles of design, what we like to do on projects like this is universal design, and that's creating environments that are safe, accessible, comfortable for people of any age, any disability or ability, so that anybody can use that. And I think that that's what you would be looking at. And then aging in place is what we just did. We renovated a home in Austin, Texas, and made the everything wheelchair accessible. It's one level. There are no steps. Everything is handicap accessible. And the bathroom you can wheel in. We have a wet room. The whole thing is I say that the key is in the detail. The devil's in the detail. And when people come in and look at the home, if they can't tell that we did it, we designed it as aging in place, then we achieved our goal. So you want it to look just like home, but you want to have key aspects addressed so that as your physical and cognitive needs change over time, your environment is there for you. And then dementia-friendly or therapeutic design it's where we help people with dementia reach their full potential without causing needless disability or physical function. And the pictures that I show you will probably give you a better example of that.
Okay.
Next, there we go. And so a therapeutic environment is an environment that supports dementia citizenship and person-centered care. And what we have found is years ago, we incorporated this group of developmentally disabled adults into our community. They now work in our communities. They live in our communities in group homes. They run coffee shops here. They do amazing things. And so we made a place for society for them, and we accepted them. But right now, we have a stigma against people with dementia. And so what we want to do is give the people with dementia their citizenship back, and like we did developmentally disabled adults, and provide person-centered care. And so therapeutic environment is one that's been intentionally designed to promote security and safety. And a lot of that is because of their memory issues. And the environment becomes therapeutic, just like a wheelchair would be for somebody that can't walk. And next slide. Okay, so what do you see in this picture? A door. What does that door say? Come here. Look, it's leading you there because you can see outside and there's light. So let's go to the next slide. What does that door say? You don't see it. And so this is all by design for somebody that is elderly, really for anybody. If you want to keep kids out of there, if you want to keep elders out of there, you can do subtle design features that can say what you need without saying a word. And so this door conveys, I'm not here. Next slide. This window is basically invisible. It just looks like part of the design. And one of the features here that's very important with aging and with people with dementia or persons with dementia, is the table and the chairs contrast with the floor. And we want a good contrast so they can see. And what I always say is take your glasses off and squint. And if you can see a contrast, then you have a good design. Next slide. This is an open concept in that facility, and these, you can see the doors and the windows that lead you, your eye leads to outside. So we designed that so that the front window led to a parking lot. We didn't want anybody to see the parking lot. And then the outside windows and the door are visible and would lead somebody to go outside. Next slide. This was a continuing care retirement community, and the fire marshal was really a stinker. And we had to have a push bar on there. And there's a little sign. Can you see that sign? Can you see my cursor? No? Okay, right above the handrail. There you go, right down here. Where's that? Who has that cursor? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
That
that would be me.
Okay, thank you. That sign says push bar for 30 seconds and door will open. So right below that sign, there is a black book and it says the Holy Bible. And we knew that nobody would push on the Holy Bible or be able to push the door for 30 seconds consistently for them to open and exit. But because it was a fire code and we had to deal with the fire marshal, we were asking, well, can we do this? Can we do that? And then finally I said, can we paint the door? He said, I don't care what you do. You just have to have the sign that says push bar for 30 seconds and door will open, an exit sign and push bars. And so what we did is we made a door off to the side with a distraction room. And we knew that it worked when the guys were delivering furniture and they had to ask us how to get out. So, next slide. This is the low cost version. There's an Alzheimer's 101 store where you can order this and wallpaper a door. And let's face it, a lot of people don't hang out in the library. They don't want to go to a bookshelf. And so libraries have been a very effective way to, or bookshelves have been a very effective way to keep people from going beyond that door. Next slide. This was a facility that had service exit doors that they did not want the residents to go out of, but the door that you can see is where the service providers would come back in. And so if you squint, you really don't see that those are painted doors. And so once again, we used the painting and the environment as a therapeutic tool to convey what we wanted. And notice the contrast between the baseboard and the floor. We want to have a very distinct contrast so that people don't feel like they're falling when they're walking. Next slide. What do we do when we get up in the morning? First thing we all do, go to the bathroom. And so in most situations, we like to design a facility or a housing situation so that the toilet is visible from the bed. So you sit up in bed, they see the toilet, it's contrasting, and this person actually needed the handrails for them, but you don't always have to have the handrails, but it's visible from the toilet or from the bed, the toilet is, and it promotes continence. Next slide. This is just an example of how you can use the ceiling and the floor to define your spaces. This was a large space that we had to define, and we were unsure of how we would do it. And then we used the ceiling and the flooring, and it worked really well. So just something to keep in mind for the architects, the designers, the builders. This is so that they know who they're designing for, and they're providing the right design features for people as we grow older, and for those that are unfortunately diagnosed with dementia. Next slide. This was an institutional bathroom in a nursing home in the South, and we did training there for years. And once a month we would go and work with the staff and the families. And the staff kept complaining about bathing. So this was before all the HGTV shows were popular. We talked the administrator into giving the ladies that gave the baths, the head CNA, and then another person on that particular unit to give them $200 and they could do what they wanted to the bathroom as long as it met safety code. And so this is what they did with $200. What a difference, right? So no wonder the residents were having a hard time going in there to bathe. Velcro went around the sink. They dipped the fabric in a fire retardant material or fire retardant solution. One of the staff's mom actually made the skirt around the sink. They were able to do this on less than the $200 budget. Keep in mind, it was in the 90s. And what they did is they purchased a cedar tree, a cypress tree actually, that looked like a Christmas tree so that they could have a Christmas tree in their outdoor area, because Christmas trees get to be tricky sometimes with people with dementia. Next slide. And this is just a different shot from the inside. And it was just a way to make it homey and a way to take away the institutional aspect. And it really made a difference in bathing for the residents. Next. And that's what it looked like on the outside. Okay. This was another facility that had problems with bathing, and we suggested putting a plant in there, some home-like curtains, painting it a cozy color and adding a picture, and it met all of the fire code, safety code, housing codes for that particular facility. That was in Mississippi. And it was much easier to get the residents to cooperate with bathing. Next. This is an idea of a trip back in time for the residents now. Who knows what it's going to be like in 50 years? We may have to have phones out there and keyboards and everything to plug in for a new generation. But right now, this is what the people in long-term care are familiar with. It's on their trip back in time. And those are the old clotheslines from the days gone by. And they actually find it very soothing to hang out clothes. And everyone wants something to do. Everyone wants a purpose in life. And this gives people that feel like they have no purpose, a purpose in life. Next. This is just an example of some handrails on the inside of a walking path. And we like to have the walking pads for people with dementia start and stop in the same place so that if they get lost, if they feel insecure, if they want to turn around, they're going to end up in the same place regardless of which way they go. And in this particular facility, they were able to adjust the raised beds depending on the resident's size. And so those that wanted to stand up and garden could stand, and those that needed to sit and garden could sit. Next. And this was a facility in South Louisiana that took everything a step further. These are all non-toxic plants. And I can't tell you how many places I've been to for senior housing that have suspicious berries, nuts. We take them back to the university, to the toxicology department, and have them test them. And we'll find that some of these things are highly toxic. And it's just another layer that most people don't think about when they're doing universal design, aging in place, or therapeutic design. You could eat everything in there and be just fine. Next. And I think that's all. Does anyone have any questions? My goal was to give you a different perspective of design for an aging population.
I found it interesting, the outside of it, because we all think about the inside. We think about 36-inch wide doorway so you get your wheelchair in. We think about a bathroom where you can spin a wheelchair. We think about the bathrooms, how to use the showers and things like that. And we have a few senior residential developments in town that we've got a bylaw, and it has all of that in there, but it doesn't have the outdoors. And I found that interesting because we don't think about what happens when people who have dementia want to go outside. I know I've dealt with it. My mother had dementia. I know I built an age-in-place dementia, not really dementia, but I helped to build a age-in-place for seniors with disabilities in Orleans. And it had the central location, like you showed us in there, with a common kitchen and rooms off of it. So that was kind of familiar, but never thought about people going outside so that they could enjoy the outside part of it. And I found that a nice touch, to something to think about. We have had, in the town of Littleton, we've had a couple of developers come in and want to talk to us about an age-in-place process, from independent living to assisted to dementia to memory care. Unfortunately, we don't have anything yet. We do have people that are interested, but we don't have a developer that has found a spot that makes sense to put that in. But it is definitely something in Littleton that we unfortunately we're going to need as our population ages. But thank you. That was very informative, especially, like I said, about the outside part of it.
To
And
follow.
I'll go back to the first two pictures real fast. Those were in an adult day health service program. And one of them was for seniors without disabilities who needed a congregate meal place and something to do. And the bus went around and collected them and then brought them there. And then that's where the glass door and then the solid door are. And one population we wanted to invite to go outside, and the other population we had someplace else for them to go. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, along the lines of going outside, I'm sure you've heard of this. I read of a center in, I think, the Netherlands that had a decoy bus station outside so if someone did get out, they would go wait for the bus, and then the staff would drive by with a bus and pick them up and deliver them back home. But I wanted to say, I'm not sure what our role is in this, for and not to diminish the necessity of this, but as Mark mentioned, we are not going to be the stewards of a dementia care center in Littleton or even I think an assisted living center, and I don't think that the 550 King Street development is necessarily going to be someplace that has a dedicated area for those, or even apartments. So I guess I would ask this board, what can we do? How can we take our money and or influence, such as it is, to implement some of these ideas? Because what you've shown here, which is fantastic, is it doesn't take very much, and a lot of what you've shown us is basically aesthetics, not, as Mark was saying, like, you have to build the doorways 36 inches wide. You can make changes that are in the finishes and the paint and the fittings that make a huge difference in the quality of life of these people. But I'm not sure that that's the case in an apartment.
The problem is it is expensive. Dementia and assisted care is very expensive. It's the highest. We have the Bridges over in Westford, which is dementia care. It's $11,000 a month just for one person in there. It's expensive. And as far as, I agree with you, Matthew, as far as this board, there's not a lot we can do other than make funding available. If somebody comes along and wants to try to put some sort of age-in-place housing here, we can try to, as a town, find a piece of land. If you're going to do it and you want to try to make it affordable, you're going to have to give up something or give them something so that they can truly make it affordable for the population that lives in Littleton. But it is very expensive. Roxanne, you're shaking your head. Yeah, even in the South, it's where they do it all the time. It's still extremely expensive.
Yeah. Yes, it's very expensive. And ideally, I just wanted to plant this seed of what the possibilities are when you do your universal design. And a lot of these things don't have to be expensive if you understand the basic principles of design. But you're right. If you want to get technical with dementia-specific care, yes, that is very expensive and that is very costly. We had a high school that was converted into HUD housing, and it was for seniors on a sliding scale. And that place was so popular, and it had a waiting list, a huge waiting list for people just to get in. And the outdoor area was in the center of the building. And so we had to come up with some very creative ways to get people out there who are handicapped or were in wheelchairs. But because of the way that was designed, they were able to live there independently longer with dementia before they needed to go to special care.
But we're hopeful. We have an old school, an old town office in the town of Littleton that we're hoping that something happens. It gets redeveloped, and maybe we can get some. We're hoping for some senior housing there, maybe some age in place things. I don't think we're going to get to dementia care because it's just going to be too expensive for us. But at least we can have people age in place and have a stable place where they could stay until, if and when they ever do need the deeper care rather than. We also have a place in Littleton that's being developed right now where it's kind of a community property where everybody kind of watches everyone else. It's interesting. It's being built right now, and it's got common areas, and you have your own place, your own apartment, you have your own kitchen, bathroom, and everything else. But you can also eat communally and enjoy each other's company communally. There'll be outdoor gardens and everything else. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But we're trying to do different things, even for a little town. I think Littleton's trying to do them as much as we can. And we have everybody on the boards to thank for that.
Have you given some thought to possibly a respite program or adult day health services for those who live in your community already, but need the support of a few hours of respite break where they could have, it doesn't take a huge space to put in adult day health services. There are guidelines from the state and that you would have to follow, but what a huge service, because that's going to keep your residents who are already living in your town in their homes longer.
Yeah, I know when I have a place down the Cape, and I know there's a healthcare facility. They come, they pick the people up on a bus and take them, and then they're gone for half a day. And not only is it good for the people that go to it, it's also good for the people that they live with to give them a break from the day-to-day healthcare of the challenges of a loved one that needs a little more care than they're used to having to give. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's something we really should be thinking about because we do Meals on Wheels and things like that. And that's probably something we should be thinking about along the lines, because we're not going to get probably a lot of age in place stuff. But that would be a great alternative to that. Look at this. I've got the two of them with their hands up now. What did I say, Ron?
You go, Susan. We're both from the Council on Aging. Go ahead, Susan.
No, you didn't say anything wrong, Mark.
Not yet.
No, you didn't. No.
I just wanted to say that the EHS COA or EHS department did have a daily or a day program. COVID sort of put a stop to that at the time. And now with the new senior center, when we get that, we'll have more space. That was also an issue with it, but it was, that's definitely a concept that we're very involved with or very thinking about anyway.
And I'll add to that I know that, yes, and that was a very successful program. And along with that, we provided programs for caretakers. And the caretakers programs they've been reinstated since COVID. But we just haven't gotten the group going again. But I do know that the First Baptist Church is going to be starting their memory cafe again, specifically for Alzheimer's patients. So I'm a retired occupational therapist and I worked in gerontology. So I'm pretty familiar with a lot of this stuff myself. And you're right. The design of buildings is critically important, but it depends on the population that's going to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've actually been to the adult day program on the Cape, and the nursing home on the Cape, in order to get the employees to stay, they had to provide transportation for the employees also.
Yeah.
and they had to also supply a lot of them with a place to live. And so that's a very good program to look at. How can we support these people in the community to work at our facility who love to work here and are good at working here, rather than losing them to the restaurant and tourism industry. So,
Trust me, we know we have many affordable housing issues here in Littleton. You know, and the meeting the needs of the Alzheimer's population or dementia population is one of them, but there are many, many other needs of people that just can't afford to stay in the homes they're in.
right.
Or the cost, you know, so. Anyway, I saw Angus had his hand up.
Angus.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Good evening, all. And must apologize for my technical difficulties. For some reason, I just could not unmute myself or get on. And when the harder I tried, it kicked me off. So here we are. Dr. Johnson, thank you so much for your excellent presentation. And I want to express our appreciation for you spending time with us tonight. Yes, I was concerned, leading me to reach out and invite you to come speak with us. I mean, you're an award-winning designer who's been involved in multiple conversions. So in recent years, certainly in the last 3 years, Littleton has been going through redesigning and repurposing of properties. And we have a huge property, 500,000 square feet building abandoned by IBM that's being planned to be repurposed. And one of the items in there is to create areas for the elderly, you know, sort of affordable type housing. And this is a huge, huge property. And I was concerned that the builder might just build a standard run-of-the-mill property, because that's cheaper, of course, that would, you know, be assigned to the elderly. And I was concerned about these concepts that you've taught us today, the concept of aging in place and allowing the property to work for you as you age. I thought that the concepts that you've shown us today are things that potentially or possibly any builders coming in to do repurposing buildings here would adopt, if the Affordable Housing Trust has a hand in it, because we do, obviously. We have a way of having these design builders apportion a certain quantity to the elderly or the disadvantaged. So therein lies my interest in having this talk. And I think that whether we are able to utilize all the principles or whether we're able to implement them are a moot point. The main thing is that we come away richer for your talk. And whenever there's a design concept or repurposing concept, we would all members of the Affordable Housing Trust, and of course, members of the Council of Aging who work very closely with us, will be able to have very well thought out input in what is going to be the final product. So I thank you for showing us some of your work and some of the basic principles that are involved in repurposing buildings. Thank you.
My pleasure. And I shared the second page of one of the design awards that I won in 1999 with Merrim today. And it has the before and after of a Walmart, an abandoned Walmart building. So it just gives you an idea of what the possibilities are. And so she can share that with you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. The challenge is going to be the funding of it. the amenities that go with them are, as we, you know, the staff that goes with them is very expensive. And if we're going to truly get an age in place, we're going to have to find some funding to we can build it, but then we have to staff it. That's where the challenge is going to be.
Well,
Very nice, though. This is beautiful.
yeah. It's,
The more you design, the less staff you need. The better your design, the less staff you need.
Hope so. Maybe in a couple of years, it'll all be robots anyway.
well,
Well, thank you for your time.
thank you very much. I was particularly interested in the simple things, the simple parts of designing. I mean, you were talking about colors and hiding doors and emphasizing doors, and I mean that makes a whole lot of sense to me. It's a way of thinking about doors that I hadn't had before. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Can I ask you
Good
one last question? Animals. Are animals a big part of this as well? I know when my mother was in the dementia care facility she was at, dogs were there, and the residents really enjoyed having pets there, animals there. Have you found that as well? I saw most of your stuff about the outside was really interesting, but what about pets?
A lot of places do have pets, and pets do make great therapy animals. It's very individualistic. For example, my mother-in-law would not have wanted a dog in the house at all. We put a greyhound, a retired greyhound, in an Alzheimer's facility in Louisiana at one point. And it was interesting because the guys would sit there and talk about the dog and look at the dog, and then the women would let the dog out and put him outside. So the dog actually lived inside. So it's personal preference and what your building is built for. Although anything therapeutic is very popular right now, music therapy, pet therapy, and I just don't want anybody to forget that our environment can be just as therapeutic.
Right.
Absolutely.
Great.
Again, thank you. And thank you, Angus, for inviting Dr. Johnson.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Right. I thought it was very informative. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with your project.
Well,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
you need it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Are we done for the night, or are we?
Well, yeah, I want to thank Angus for setting that up. I think that was very informative. The next thing on the agenda is establishing the next meeting, which is typed in as July 19th. Is that going to work for everybody?
Yeah.
Then I think it works for me. I don't know. I never know what I'm going to do day to day.
It's
So
Zoom, so I think we can.
That's fine.
Okay, well, we'll pencil it in then. Okay, is there any other discussion of it? I thought it was great. I really do think that the simple things like, I mean, because I'm a retired architect, moving doors and having doors treated different ways is.
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
I want to thank Marge and all her friends for being at our planning board meetings and talking to Mr. Napoli outside about the senior needs. I hold him outside in the parking lot, and he was nice enough to listen, and he did listen, and he remembered, and he put it in the decision, and it's because of you, Marge, and all your friends being there.
It was myself and Susan, actually. It was just the two of us that actually cornered him the first time he was in Littleton.
I was being charitable. I said, you cornered the poor guy.
Well, we cornered him on the way out the door. So.
And he, you know what? He listened, he remembered, and you made a good point. And now you have 40 deeply discounted senior apartments because you guys cared enough to talk to him about it, and he cared enough to listen to you.
Well,
And
I'd like to also let you know that Gwen Hodeling, who's been on this call, attending your meeting tonight too, she's from Hager Homestead. And we had an interesting conversation. Susan was there at Thursday last week. And Gwen was there working for Hager Homestead, right, Gwen? Yep, she's muted, but you have to, it's nice that she's here and paying attention to your meeting, I think. So,
We're interested in community connections for sure.
yeah, yep.
Thank you.
And she is going to be the first resident from Littleton that's going to be over there, living there, right, Gwen?
As far as I know.
Yep, she's
Great.
working on that. So, yeah. So anyway,
Again, shout out to you, Marge and Susan, for sticking to your guns and cornering Mr. Lapoli. You did.
well, we're going to keep any way we can help.
going.
right?
Yeah, that's right. Keep pushing.
Could I make a comment to say, I love that presentation that, the doctor gave about, how we have a large group of people that are going to be wanting to age in place. And so if those affordable units that maybe if you're earmarking them for seniors, maybe they should be built adaptable ahead of time, and have a lot of those features in there so that people that are developing their Alzheimer's get to stay in their house longer instead of having to think about adapting it once you realize they have a diagnosis. So,
Like I was trying to say,
Well-
our senior bylaw has in there all of that, from
great.
higher to wider hallways to handicapped access. They don't have to be handicapped bathrooms; you just have to have the capacity to be turned into handicapped bathrooms. And if you design it properly, you can have it in place for 20 years until you need it. Then you take out what you take out and make them handicapped or more senior friendly. Let's put it that way. How's that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
certainly that was my intent in thinking about inviting the Doctors Johnson to come talk to us, because not after these buildings are built, then they start repurposing them. It's usually not very effective at that point. Yeah.
Right.
Well, with preparation, we can get the builder to put something as simple as blocking inside the walls so that we can do grab bars later, or that kind of thing, and you're just staying a little bit ahead of during the construction phase.
Right.
And I don't think it will cost them anything to have a consultant like Dr. Johnson work with them for the units that they assign to the elderly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's great. We've had, quote, universal design in our bylaws, in our senior residential development bylaws for a while, but now getting a deeper understanding of what it can mean, I think that's very helpful.
Yeah.
And I know Liz is informed, and I know we have some resources available, but I mean, the more the merrier. There's no
Right.
question about that.
I think having a formal consultant at some point would be a really good idea. But if we're doing some serious construction, which is coming up, but it's not today.
Yeah.
So,
We're getting closer.
well, yep, we're taking steps and we're getting closer. All right, is there anything else? Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Move to
So
adjourn.
moved.
So moved.
Second.
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 All right. I think in this case, we can all signify by saying aye or waving our hands or doing something.
Yes.
With an addendum, I'd like to vote aye for the LRAPs that I missed when the computer was blinking in and
All
out.
right. I will make sure that you are recorded that way.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Mhm.
Good night.